Welcome, everybody. This is Reef Beef. And here in Reef Beef, we just speak frankly as if we're talking to each other at the bar at a conference. And so sometimes we let some foul language slip because, sometimes we're having a tasty beverage. And, hey, if your ears are sensitive to that sort of thing, here is your pre warning. But without further ado, let's Reef Beef it. Welcome to the Reef Beef. My name is Ben.
My name is Richard.
And today we have a show where we're going to talk to you about test kits and testing water parameters. And I have a beef about beginners going too deep too fast. And this show is brought to you by saltwateraquarium.com and MACNA conference. But more on that later. Rich, what's going on, brother man?
No, bunch of stuff. I have to hide these two tanks again. Because what's going on in the secrets?
Always some secrets going on with you.
Secrets, and you got secrets in the tanks behind you.
Yeah,
the two are covered just like these. I also like that the Reef Beef podcast is all glowing and lit up. That's kind of fun.
Backlit. I like that.
That's kind of great. And other than that, has anything else been really going on with the system? I don't think so. I think everything's just been doing great. The tank, and I should take some full tank shots of it because you haven't seen it since I did all the changes.
Well, I'm going to ask you someday for a video of that anemone if you still have it.
Oh, I do. And I thought I took a picture. I took some video of that. I'll get that, and we'll do that in a future episode.
I'm intrigued by it.
But I think, other than that, yeah, the display looks like I clean the glass, which I do every 2 or 3 weeks, because who cares? And I was like, whoa, that looks good. And then there's all the different euphilia I have in the back. There's like, the anal leakage euphilia and the big booty euphilia and the orange green diarrhea euphilia.
Or as Richard and I call them, just euphilia.
Euphilia. I've got a bunch of different euphilias. And every 2 years or so I break them down because they press into the tank, right? And so they are pressing forward. They're taking up there's real estate behind them that is just skeleton that does nobody any good. So I'm going to have to pull those out in the next few months and clip them all and get rid of all the vermitids and things like that.
So I know not too long ago, you had the whole sort of landslide in your tank there, but is your tank really starting to look like you can't notice that happened anymore?
I think the only person who could notice after I did the fixing was me. I think if anybody else had come up, you kind of would have gone, what happened? And that's just because I've been doing that for a long time. At public aquariums, my whole goal was to make the tanks look like they had been there forever. As soon as they go on display, which sometimes you can do and sometimes you can't. And I had a lot of material to work with. I've got corals in here and a lot of corals in the main tank. So moving stuff around was good. I'm really happy the $500 E-Flow is back on display.
Oh, good.
In the tank, and it looks good. Everything looks.
Is that the one that had acro-eating flatworms on?
No, that was a different one. And I found one acro-eating flatworm the other day, and I'm like, maybe I'll just start basting for a little bit.
Crazy town.
Who cares?
Well, since last time that we had a video, I spoke at the Aquashella Dallas.
Yeah.
At this point, it doesn't matter. You're going to watch this whenever, but it was a couple weekends ago. But that was fun. That was a good speaking engagement for me. It was a packed room, and I couldn't tell, like, when it was over, everyone clapped, and I couldn't tell, whether I gave a good presentation or they were just happy that it was over, maybe. But it went well for me. I liked it a lot.
That's great. That's great. I'm sorry I had to run away from that show.
No, but yeah, again, it's crazy. They have them, they have them every year. They have this, it goes back and forth between Chicago and Dallas, and sometimes they do Florida. But it's so crazy because it's got, freshwater and reptiles and saltwater. And so sometimes we're used to MACNAs, so we're used to sort of like all our friends. And it can be bewildering sometimes because it's like,
So it was good that your talk, you feel good about your talk.
Every seat was taken up, and there was even people standing in the back. They
That's
might have
great.
been, in all seriousness, they might have been waiting for the people,
No, that's fine.
after me, but it doesn't matter. There's just ears and whatnot. I said a lot of stuff about Reef Beef. I gave out that old Jeff Goldblum with the chimpanzee shower curtain.
Yeah.
I gave it away because I asked, who in the crowd actually listens to Reef Beef, and a lady raised her hand. So I gave it to her. But when I got back home, then my wife was mad at me because she wanted that shower curtain. But
Pissing everyone off.
that's what happens.
I think the best Aquashella talk I gave was before Joey DI King guy.
Yeah, he'll pack a room.
So, never be upset that the room is packed because people are there for the next person.
For sure.
This means you get to be awesome. What was it? Did you watch the other speakers? I'm asking because I was at some of the early Aquashellas, and seeing how they've changed speaker wise is really interesting to me because they seem to be getting better every time.
So I got to my talk way before, ahead of time, and they had there's a young guy, can't remember his name, but he was like their sound guy. So apparently on the other ones they kept renting like mixing boards.
Yeah,
but they went ahead and bought a board that the guy was familiar with.
Great. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I think the biggest thing is this one. They had suspended giant speakers from the ceiling. And because the other like the time you and I did it, and the other times the half the room could hear, half couldn't. This one was very powerful.
Great. And the talks were generally well attended?
Yeah, for sure.
I
sat in on Sanjay's. He was talking about his home, his Penn State aquarium.
Yeah.
All the inhabitants in it, and yeah.
Yeah. So I think I'm supposed to do the Chicago Aquashella now this year.
They're starting to get it down. I enjoyed, like I said, it's
awesome.
As far as all the times that I've spoken somewhere, I think it's the one that I was the most proud of so far.
Excellent. Congratulations. Yeah, I'm sad to have missed your awesome talk.
That's okay, because when you were at the MACNA one and I looked at you, I got nervous, but I'm getting better and better.
Good. There's no reason to be nervous.
Hey, I wanted to talk about something just briefly. Neptune came out with a new version of Apex.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to get your a hot take on this real fast. But there hasn't been a whole lot of changes to it. So you get there's always the haters. I don't like this and I don't like that. So people are, we should just be happy that we have aquarium equipment. That's my opinion. It doesn't, just because the new piece of equipment comes out, it doesn't mean you have to buy it. Just like an iPhone, if you're still working, just stay with it. But anyways, they did something that I thought was interesting. I wanted to get your hot take on it, which was, they didn't include the conductivity probe, and I wanted to know what you thought of that.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know. Conductivity probes have been hard to get, so that might have something to do with it. And I think they're also, I don't know. I have no clue. Not everyone wants a conductivity probe or wants to deal with a conductivity probe.
I mean, I guess I have my 2 cents. I think, when a hobbyist with less experience that has been told that they need a Neptune Apex, so they get it. I think some people tend to think that conductivity probe out of the box just freaking works.
Yeah, but they never do.
Yeah, and they never do. And I didn't know if maybe Neptune, I mean, we're all a small community, so I don't think anyone gets this way, but how VCA made that thing that sort of streamlines the conductivity probe. So I didn't know how a manufacturer would feel about like a third party making something that makes their product better. Maybe they thought the conductivity probe was a bit problematic and they're going to revisit it later or something.
I don't know. I think they're, the A3s is what they're called. They're not for people who already have apexes.
Yeah.
right? It's all for new people, and they included the module. Oh my God, my brain is
WXM.
no, that's discontinued. The module that allows you to have the level detection stuff, the leak, the
Oh, the FMM fluid monitoring module.
yes, but I
They
don't know.
did change the way that their, water on the floor sensor is. They completely
Yeah,
changed,
yeah,
redesigned it.
yeah. So they made those new sensors, right?
I don't know. Had you, because I only deal with a couple apexes, had you heard that people were having problem with those sensors or something?
With which sensors?
The water on the floor sensors.
No, I mean, but things can always be better.
Yeah.
Um, in my opinion, so I think they just found a better sensor,
Yeah.
a better way to do it. And oh my God, I'm just trying to figure out because I don't want to be wrong. I can't believe my brain isn't working.
It's okay. How's your
I know how to find. I know how to tell. I'll just look at my Apex screen.
I was just basing off of, when it came out, I see stuff like that on the Facebook Neptune users
Yeah,
group.
yeah. The
And
FFM.
there's a lot of cool people on there, but there's always people that just like, I don't know. I don't believe in too much freaking out about our industry. It's just a
Yeah.
small industry.
So I think they're trying to sell stuff. So I think they put the fluid monitoring ports on there because that'll make it more useful to more people out of the box than the salinity.
Oh, I see. They didn't have it to where you have to get an FMM module. It's just in there.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
Right. So it seems to me about half dozen of the other. So now if do none of the new Apexes have come with the probe?
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
I don't
that
know.
version before this.
Yeah.
Or
No.
conductivity. Yeah, they all come with conductivity, but it's like I guess some people were tripping out because they didn't put it on this one. So people are trying to wonder.
Well,
But I mean,
you still have the port for the conductivity. It just doesn't come with the probe.
yeah, man, I hate to talk out of place because maybe that's the way it is. I didn't know if they didn't even have a port for it. I don't know. I don't know that.
I Yeah. Well, if they don't, I
I
mean,
mean, that'd be weird. Maybe they're reworking it.
well then, or all they've done is decided that they think more people would like to have the FFM ports, so they put that on there, and anybody who wants a conductivity probe can buy a PM2 and add that to the tank. So I think I think they are deciding what they think is going to sell the best for their customers, and that's what they're doing. So for whatever reason, they decided not to have the conductivity probe included in the package, which so if it's because they can't get it, great. That's a great reason not to have it. Wonky supply lines are a really good reason not to have it in there, and I'm not going to give them any grief. Or if they thought that the FFM stuff, if they added the conductivity probe, it gets the whole A3 packages more expensive than people are going to want to buy. So, they're always guessing. They're always trying to figure out who they're going to serve the best with their product. And this whole thing, the whole A3 is for people who don't yet have an Apex. Now you've got
Yeah.
three choices.
Yeah,
So,
that's what I'm saying. I don't think like current users are like, oh, are we supposed to switch that one? No way. No, of course not.
No,
But they're
only
I just feel like they're streamlining it and redesigning it for the
yeah,
next,
yeah.
for the
And
next incomers.
and I know people who have have upgraded. If you were about to buy a FFM module, and you like your wiring neater or everything's closer together, sure, why not, right? But that's not for us.
Yeah.
That's for other folk. And if you, there's 3 alerts on my Apex. What is that about?
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Speak of the devil.
3 modules are missing.
Oh, did it sort of bork?
Oh no. It's my skies, and it's hot here today,
Ah.
so it's reached the temperature where it shuts off the skies. And
Let me ask you real quick. When it's hot in San Francisco, what does that mean? How hot is hot?
right now, in my air temp monitor for the Apex, it's not that hot. So yeah, I don't know why my skies are missing. I will find that out. They may. I was dicking around in there, so I may have unplugged something by accident. So.
Well, like the air temperature outside in San Francisco.
It was like 85 yesterday. It was pretty warm for us.
Dude. Well, that's going to be an easy thing to beat down, so I'll leave that alone. Hey, Richard, saltwateraquarium.com is the bomb. I mean, let's just talk about a couple things. What's so good about them? I mean, they have 3 locations that they ship from. That's how they can assure to get you your products quickly. They have a mobile app that you can order from that makes ordering easy. I mean, some people order from a laptop, but you can 3 a.m, you need to order F-Aptasia. You can do it on your phone.
On the freeway, you go, oh man, I need
on the freeway.
I need reagents.
Yeah.
Just pull over and you order them real quick.
And speaking of driving and looking at your phone, they have online articles. So if you need to know, like, why you should test for nitrate, like, when you're going 80 miles an hour on the highway, be sure and check out those articles.
That's right.
They have frequent buyer discounts. Those are great. Are we advising people to?
I'll wait till the end of the ad.
Blood flows red on the highway.
They're great. So when I order stuff for them, and I've been using them forever, because I think they're a really nice size company. So they're big enough to have everything you want, but small enough to still be really fun. And I order like at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it ships that day. So that's pretty hip. And their tracking seems to be right on. There's nothing worse when you order something and then you don't hear for 3 days if it's been ordered or not.
Oh, yeah. So saltwateraquarium.com is great, man. They've been with us since nearly the beginning. If you love us, you love them. When you order, use our URL down below so they know that you came from us. And put something in the notes. Just say Reef Beef, or, if you want to say something silly, tell them a joke, whatever.
Or if you want to be serious, you write something. I've never heard of you until the Reef Beef podcast. Without them, I never would have used your company.
Exactly. So thank you, saltwateraquarium.com.
You know what? You know what would help scary times? Big fucking laser.
Yeah. Like a Jewish space laser?
No! An aquarium-based laser.
Dude, what's your laser saga going on?
So, people are really interested in the laser stuff, which I think is great because I'm really interested in the laser thing. And so I am putting together video where so I can support my feelings about these lasers. This laser is 6 watts.
That stronger one that you showed us.
That's the stronger one. That's the one that's in this video I'll show you, and last week's video.
Yeah.
I ordered a 15 watt.
What level do you get to when it starts getting maybe perhaps a little scary?
The 6 watts can be a little scary.
But that's what I'm wondering about the 15 watts. That
15 watt might be.
I remember I asked you in a show. There's no way that can crack glass, right? It just doesn't.
No, because light goes through glass. But a 15 watt laser is a lot.
It's getting a bit sketchy.
So I will definitely test it through glass that I don't care about before I take it to the tank. But it's funny. These are made they're made to go on, etcher.
Oh, okay.
A 3D laser etcher. Cutter.
Yeah.
So the button, comes with a cable, but there's a button and it's kind of hard to get to. And, if you do this with it, I got some rubber around the tank and sometimes some of that burns as I move it around. I mean, it's a lot. It lights things on fire fast. It's
God, well, then it's something that's double that. Like I'm gonna start getting worried about you when you start mounting things on tripods.
I'm going to mount the lasers on tripods so I can film it. So now that I got the good glasses, not the shitty glasses, I put on my 6 by magnifier glasses and put these over it like I'm fucking some kind of decrepit Cyclops character. And I can now see what's going on a little bit more while the laser is working.
Wow.
I can see some shit boiling.
Man, honestly, I really should check into that because
Well, let me keep digging with it. I'm gonna have some results, and then we'll have a Reef Beef 10-minute video or something with the results and with what I think they're good.
Because that could be a game changer for me. I have tanks that have Mahanos in places I can't get to. I have Palithoas that need to be mowed over.
So that's why I want the bigger one. So the 6-watt one on anemones and polyps, you need a bunch of treatments for them to go away. I've seen no aptasia spread from it. You were worried about that before.
Yeah.
I think it just boils them to death. Boils them. There's nothing left.
I'll still suspend my opinion because you know how it takes a little while.
Sure. No, well, they come back. There's the one over here that was in the video before. That it's there now. But its tentacles have got to grow back for a few days. So I think if you hit it every day for 4 or 5 days, and I'll do this, I'll pick one and I'll do it till it's eradicated.
Also wonder too if you like just lays one up and then also put F-aptasia on it, if that's like insult to injury.
I think just put F-aptasia on it. If you're putting F-aptasia on a Mahano or a polyp or not a polyp, on a Mahano or an aptasia, and it doesn't kill it, you're using it wrong.
Yeah.
On a Palithoa, you often need multiple treatments of aptasia to kill them off because they're so thick tissue. They're so thick.
Yeah.
But
what she said.
You can definitely get them to stop with the anemones to stop being annoyed. I mean, you can get them to retract. But I think I'm working on it, and we'll have how many treatments I need.
Yeah.
To get rid of it. But I'm hoping the 15-watt will just be enough.
Dude, when you derive at your final conclusion, we totally need, that's what we need to do. We need a Reef Beef laser.
Ha! But I have some video for you today. Again, it's still early, but I think lasers are really good for vermitid snails.
Okay, cool. I guess it just scares me. I don't want people like frying their eyeballs out.
Absolutely. Again, with the laser, if you don't wear, especially with, 4, 6, 15-watt, if you're not wearing eye protection, you're an idiot. And sometimes it reflects and I can feel it on my arm.
Really?
Right? So, for the bigger one, I might wear a full face shield and make sure I'm in long sleeves.
Well, because I'm just thinking like I'm in my client's like office or building, like I'm catching their desk on fire.
The 6-watt won't do that. And I think the 6-watt will end up being a fantastic tool for vermitids that are in weird places that you can't get to. And I'll show you now. I will show you now my evidence for that, which is still preliminary. I still am working on it.
Work in progress, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binaries.
Okay. Are you seeing that?
Oh, wow. That's a massive vermetid that's just got a web of slime everywhere.
Yeah, so I have a trick to get slime webs out. I do want to point out real quick right here. See this polyp?
Yeah, little tiny.
Tubastria.
Yeah.
And here's one over here too.
Is that Micrantha I got you still doing okay?
The Micrantha's doing good. And I think I've got black Tubastria babies. I'm not sure if they're the black Tubastria or the branching the one you sent me. But I'm thrilled with my trick for getting these things to put their mucus webs out. So I'll show you this, and we'll do a little bit of the laser, and you can hear about it. And I figured out a way to film what's going on with the laser that I think is going to make some exciting video. But that's not what this is. So there you go. Right, you can fully see right here. Here's the face of the worm. Here's its, the snail. Here's its shell. And all of this web is from this one. This web over here is from a different one. And there's one here. There. So that the laser's lit up.
Whoa. Wow.
And already, the vermitid disappeared. It went into its shell already.
Holy cow.
And you can hear that, right? You can hear the sizzling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like he's just like an escargot where he sits.
Hear the hissing?
Yeah. That's got to kill him. It's got to kill him.
Listen.
There's no way they live from that. So you can burn their web too with
Here's some better. So now it's actually on where the body is. And if I hold the laser still, you might be able to see particulate popping off. But listen to that sizzle. Isn't that great?
I wonder at what point could you cause, maybe with the 15 watt, I wonder if it could cause water to like boil like in a tiny spot. Like,
well, I think I'm pretty sure that's what's happening.
Could you blow up a live rock?
Probably not. I think you'd need a big laser on a shark or something.
Sharks with lasers.
Listen.
Whoa.
So things that are the right color for the laser burn better.
Really?
Yeah, so white doesn't go very well.
Oh, I guess it reflects some of it.
Yeah, but the darker shell of the vermitid really seems to go nuts. I'll fast forward a little bit. Let me see where we are.
Dude, we're in the future, man. We're killing pests with lasers, bro.
It's pretty great. Here it is. That's the same vermitid.
It looks abandoned.
It's totally there's nothing coming out of it anymore.
And even it's
and look at the color.
Shell looks bleached.
Yeah, so I burned I burned it. Right? So in this one you can see it's dark colored.
Yeah.
And in this one it's all
charred
off. And that one has not come back. And anecdotally, I can't believe I don't understand why that's gone, but who cares? Anecdotally, I have I've killed a bunch of vermitids with it. Vermitids inside a whole bunch of here, that's what I wanted to show you. But yeah, look, you can see how there's nobody home inside there right now, right?
Yeah. And
you can see over here that some of that shell has definitely been charred. So yeah, I think there is really good opportunity here for that laser. Now it's not going to be fast. It's not going to be quick. If you can reach a vermitid with something to crush it, do that. But a bunch of the ones that are low down in the tank, you just stand there with a laser. It's really kind of fun. So I think it works. I'm pretty sure it works. Now I'm going about gathering better evidence for it. But
keep us up to date on that, because that could be interesting. And when we get to a final version, we'll have to call it a Reef Beef laser.
A brazier.
a beef laser.
Yeah, beef laser. And I'm gonna say it again. If you're gonna get a laser, we were really be careful with muriatic acid. Be really careful with the laser. Don't be an idiot.
We're like the dangerous podcast.
The danger. 15 ways to kill yourself with reefing equipment.
Yes. So Richard,
Benjamin,
what's going on September 9th through 11 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
The Marine Aquarium Conference of North America and the world is happening. Gathering and growing in Wisconsin. The first
which is awesome
person.
because they've gone through a couple years of, having them online,
Yeah.
which some cool things came out of that. But I mean, that's personally, I'm just going to say that's my favorite conference. And it's just going to be good to go back and see all my friends in the flesh again.
Yeah. Truthfully, my favorite conference was the one on the Queen Mary, the IMAC on the Queen Mary in Long Beach. But it was my
Oh,
favorite conference because there was like 40 speakers and
whoa.
like 12 guests. So it was literally just hanging out with cool people.
That's awesome.
Besides that, I'm with you. MACNA, I like MACNA because of the educational bent for it, where the speakers are speaking and they're good and they're interesting and they have something to say, hopefully about something that you're interested in, not just I have a pretty aquarium, which is a fine talk, but MACNA would be like, let's look at why LEDs might or might not work.
And the cool thing is it seems like I was looking at the speaker lineup and it's like almost half the speaker lineup has been on the show.
It's
Joe Waiulo, Mark Levinson, Craig Bingman. Hey, Richard's going to be talking.
That guy's an ass.
Yes.
Anyway, we're doing an ad for MACNA. And
Yes. And you're messing it up.
I'm sorry. Go to MACNA. Go on. Yeah, there needs to be people there and there needs to be vendors there for the speakers to be able to speak. So, and I think that's important. And I think seeing these people, hearing the talk and then being able to go and find that speaker the next day and talk to them for 15 minutes about questions you have about what they were talking about is really awesome and useful and can really help you get your head on straight about what's going on in your tank.
I'm going to say I am looking forward to a talk from a guy named Tyga Boy, because he does this thing with macroalgae, and it is an avenue that I want to know more about. He's using almost making planted aquariums in saltwater tanks. Yeah. And I have got to know and understand more about this. I'm going to that talk.
How cool that the hobby has progressed to it's gotten broad enough that people are like, let's have an algae tank.
Yeah.
I'm going to grow Caulerpa.
On purpose.
It's awesome. So come to MACNA in September in Milwaukee. Get there on Wednesday or Thursday and stay till Monday so you're relaxed. We just had a meeting before this about how we're going to record shows at MACNA. It's a good time.
Come find us.
We'll have hats. We'll have some hats. Oh, that's a secret. Don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody about the hats. We'll see you at MACNA.
Hey, Richard.
Yes.
Test kits and testing.
Yeah. Ugh.
I personally have a massive love-hate relationship with this subject.
Yeah.
What I actually do ends up being far different than the advice that I give to people, which especially a lot of my experience has been in stores and whatnot, like helping and advising people. So beginners, I always tell them to get test kits, and because I want them to be familiar with, where stuff's at and, maybe the nitrogen cycle in the beginning. And there's no better way than for them to actually test it and experience it. But I mean, I friggin' hate testing because I think I sort of had a epiphany in the early 2000s when I worked at the Houston Zoo. We had a spectrophotometer, a $5,000, a Hawk DR 5000.
Yeah, the countertop version.
Yeah, pretty fancy testing thing that could. I remember, my bosses were saying that it tests out to the 10,000th place, as if you needed to know that for nitrate. But I mean, there it was. But I did have sort of an epiphany because it was seeing the accuracy of something like that I would never use on a hobby level, or even, how I am now. I wouldn't use something like that on even a professional level. The reason we had to do is because we were AZA accredited. And so to keep that accreditation, we had to provide them with daily and weekly and monthly testing of things. So we had to have that. But it further soured the way I feel about hobbyist testing, because even the companies we like, Nios and Elos and Red Sea and, all this other stuff, like Hannah, all these test kits that we have for our industry, you just gotta, I think the metaphor that I use is like, as far as water parameters go, we're in like a pitch black room, and a hobbyist test kit is like a pen light, and we're trying to find the door on the other side of the room, and so I guess that partially makes me grumpy about testing stuff on a hobbyist titration test kit, because the best case scenario, it's still like, it might not, I just get scared of people doing actionable things off of a single. And let me say this real quick before I give you room to speak, is that I personally feel like if you do test, if you don't keep a journal on your computer or a piece of paper, if you just do one test out of the blue and then you flip out and start doing things, man, that's not the way to go. I say throw them in a journal, write it down on a journal, or put it in an Excel spreadsheet or whatever you're doing, so you can sort of follow the trend and not freak out about a single data point. As if you hadn't tested nitrate in 3 years, you test it once and you're like, oh my gosh, I got to do something, which is maybe true. You got to do something, but it would be awfully nice to see a trend of where it had been, where it's going, stuff like that.
Yeah. I when I started lanthanuming in 2018, I started keeping a spreadsheet, and I was also trying to compare all the different testings. Fuck them all. They're just so terrible. But it's very nice. Somebody was like, what was your nitrate and phosphate at its highest? I was like, I can tell you. And then I could say, oh yeah, no, it was up there for a while, and then it came down, and and so I tracked it. So, but before we get into that, ask me what test kits I own.
What test kits do you own, Richard?
I have a Trident, which tests alkalinity, calcium, and magnesium. I almost never pay attention to the calcium and magnesium. If the calcium is anywhere between 400 and 600, I don't care. If the magnesium is anywhere between 1200 and 1500, I don't care. And it's almost always in those levels. So it just doesn't change. I have API test kit for alkalinity, because all I really care about is it between 8 or 9, or is it between 7 and 8, or is it between 9 or 10? I don't really care where it falls in between there. I don't think it matters that much. I have some ways to measure salinity. And then I have a Hawk DR890 that I use to test phosphate and nitrate, which I do once a month or once every other month, or when I remember. And I bought that because, talking to Craig Bingman, he was like, if you want it to be, reliable and repeatable, this is the way to go. So that's what I did. Other than that, I don't have a magnesium test kit. I don't have a potassium test kit. I don't have a nitrite test kit. I don't have an ammonia test kit. I don't have any of that. So I think I hate testing. I used to hate changing bulbs. I thought was the worst thing about the hobby, especially when you had DE metal halides. Always buy 3 because you're going to break 2 putting them in. Fucking hated those things. The 250 watt were the worst.
I used them a lot, but yeah, I had to be real careful with changing them.
Hated that. But now, with all the work that I've done, since 2014 on phosphate and nitrate and salinity, and trying to track all that and where we are at, I hate testing more than anything. And what's going on now that makes testing even worse is everyone wants to compare all their test kits to each other. And that's going to make you insane. There's just, I got to go troubleshoot at High Tide Aquatics. I want to try help tomorrow, because he got a Trident and he's trying to make it make sense in his head with the test kits he's been using. So I'll go over there and talk. But, trying to compare a Hannah to a Salifert, it's like to a Trident. It's like they're never going to be the same ever, ever, ever.
I see that all the time on the Facebook Neptune users group. Is and there's people that with the in regards to the trident, where what do? They zero it to what the Hannah's doing. They're trying to compare the Hannah to the trident, and I understand that the trident does give some people a headache, but they're acting like a titration Hannah test kit out of a box is comparable in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
To a trident.
Yeah.
I mean, I realize the trident can give you some headaches, but
right. So can the Hannahs.
Yeah.
The Hannahs made me insane. You know, I used you in my talk. Maybe they're better now. But they, your picture of you doing 5 tests in a row and it being, I think it was like 6-5 to 12. It was like, okay, I don't know what to do with this. So what are you going to do? What do you do with this test mess? Have we talked about the mess enough? Does it make sense why it's a mess? Because they're all different. They all have a different plus minus, which is really important to understand. And you fiddling with them means it's going to be different. So all testing is you want trends. So you do want to write it down for sure. And, going, I want my alkalinity to be 9 and not 8.75. I think there's practically no difference. So I only chase alkalinity in ones, And
I think I've fallen in the camp of, maybe it seems crazy to some people, but it's just like, even my clients taking, not to brag or anything, but I have some pretty nice tanks out there that, I'm not talking about it's looked good for a year. I mean, I'm talking about like 10-year-old tanks, 8-year-old tanks, 12-year-old tanks that have week in, week out, month out, have been consistently good, just because I fall back to all the experience that I do, big, large water changes. I'm just a water change fanatic. And it's like, I don't really want to know your nitrate and phosphate unless we get into like a rough patch with algae or something. I just want to see what's going on. I might change. I know one of my best looking reef tanks out there, I checked nitrate 5 years ago.
Right. So, I mean, I think that's,
but that's won. That's hard won knowledge though.
Well, I think the knowledge is hard won, but I think it's the same with new tanks. And I just I got to get it out of my head. I wrote to Randy Holmes Farley, because he often talks about, when people ask about phosphate and nitrate, everyone's always looking for the right, what should it be? And he's very nice. And he goes, well, this is what the natural seawater kind of is. And there are some people with, nutty levels of both of these that have great looking tanks. So, and I just wrote to him to tell him that, when my phosphate was 1.6 and my nitrate was 120, as opposed to now when my nitrate is 16 and my phosphate is 0.18, no real difference in anything that I'm doing in the tank. It's
really coloration.
It's all the same.
I would say algae growth, but if you've ever stood in front of Richard's tank, there's not a lot of room for algae to even exist,
except on the Euro brace.
Yeah. And then algae goes hog wild on there
because there's predators can't get up there to eat it, herbivores. But yeah, I got no algae. So even in these tanks, there's like no algae. There's some cyano, but there's no algae. So I think what happens is, people think that there's a right level and there's only these giant ranges, and some of them matter and some of them don't. Your pH going to 10 or going to 6, probably not good for your animals, like with certainty. My alk dropped while I was away, from 8.5-ish down to 6, and it was down there for a couple days, not a blip.
Yeah.
So, people are looking at these numbers and hoping that the numbers correlate to something in reality in their tanks, where I've been saying forever, you just want to do it the same way every time, till your animals look healthy, and so you can see a trend. And I don't even care what the numbers are. So
it really does. That's one thing that I would impress upon a newish reefer, because and I have clients or whatnot, or sometimes consultations where they're like, this is that and this is that. What do I do? I'm scared. I'm freaked out. Blah blah blah. And it's like, you really have to become, if you've chosen this as a hobby and you have big expectations about it, you really just have to accrue a lot of experience being around your tank. And because, to be honest with you, half of the stuff that these less experienced reefers are freaking out about don't need to freak out about it.
absolutely, absolutely. As I'm doing research for my MACNA talk, and I'm reading a lot of threads, and it's just like, oh my god, they're worried about a patch of fucking discolored on their sand the size of a quarter, and they think I think people think that the white dry rock that people are using nowadays, I think they think it's supposed to stay white, because they freak out when it changes a little bit of color, and I think they think that if they keep their levels, I don't think that, I know they think if they keep their levels right, whatever the fuck that means, that everything's going to work out, and it's just not true.
A virgin white porous surface in a marine aquarium is just begging to be covered by all manner of stuff.
Yeah, and it's going to go through its phases, because that's what's going to happen. And if you're not crazy and you just wait a couple of months, it'll all be fine. Your algae will be covered with stuff. Algae won't grow on it. Your rock will be, just relax. This idea of an instant tank and being able to make it right because we know numbers. It's a much wider range of stuff for most of it than we think, than people think.
Yeah.
Right.
So to sort of wrap up this section is that you beefers, you have to understand and I'm sure there's, we have our advanced beefers and intermediate beefers and beginner beefers, but I'm just saying this is going to segue into what I'm talking about next, because sometimes what we're talking about, when those of us who have lots of experience doing this, yeah, of course we don't freak out about certain things because we have that experience about what you need to freak out and what you don't. Now, I am certainly not sitting here saying don't test your stuff. I think when you're newer in the hobby, I like to see you testing for a year or a couple years. And it's almost like not like there's anything where you have to earn your stripes. I'm just saying that's how you gain your knowledge. And then I feel like once you understand all those things and then understand better what you could freak out about or what not freak about, you could possibly slack off on some of that stuff. Now, I also know that ICP testing is popular nowadays, and that's a whole nother show. But you can get carried away with elements that no one's even written off on that they're important or not. If you'd watched an earlier show, I had a client when I first came to do consultation from him. He was using a certain ICP company. They found that his vanadium was low, so they started selling him bottles of vanadium. I got him off of that. Do you know what? This was 4 months ago. His aquarium either looks as good, if not, or maybe better than when he quit using vanadium, which was a little expensive and completely pointless. So I mean, be careful about ICP testing, testing things that no marine chemist has even written off about. We're in the infancy of doing that, of understanding what some of those elements, bear on. It might be that 10 years from now, we are adding vanadium or something like that, but
I'm still fucking dying that in 2014 or whatever, I said, you watch, people are going to be adding nitrate and phosphate to their tanks, and everyone laughed like that was a stupid idea. And they're doing it now. I think it's dumb.
But anyways, that's a good enough time to segue over to
No, it's not. I had
things.
I had several more things to say.
Oh, let's stay on it then.
Because it was important, I thought. The problem is people think the numbers are important. And sometimes they are, but a lot of times they're not.
I mean,
Right?
the
So
old
you set it up so you're getting a trend and everything is healthy. Stay with your one test kit. Don't get any other test kits, and just keep it in that range that you found works. But trying to change your number because, because it says, on your ICP it says, 18.17, and you think that that 0.17 makes a difference, you're crazy.
well,
We're not
okay,
there yet
yeah.
for to be able to test that small of amount, and it just doesn't matter so much. So people should chillax. You know, when you set up a new tank, things are going to be weird for a bit, but you can't. When I set up a new tank, if it's not on display, right? If it's not an instant, it's like I'm not really looking at it for 3 months.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
just
How would
letting
you
it.
even have much of an expectation about it within the
No,
first 6 months?
no well, the first 3 or 4 months for sure. No
Yeah.
expectation. It's just you're just letting it all settle.
Uh-huh.
Letting it all get to its equilibrium where that tank is gonna be. If you start screwing with it, if you're chasing ammonia in the first month of a tank, just why even bother? Unless you want to track the ammonia to see what it's doing.
That's
Great.
what I'm saying. If you're a very beginner reef hobbyist and you're trying to understand what, I mean, to be honest with you though, you can look on the internet or literature and you can see the charts of what it does. So testing or not, I
Yeah,
could have that argument.
yeah. Oh, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about people. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. So I see people doing all of this work, to add phosphate and add nitrate, and they're testing and they're testing and they're water changing and they're adding silicate because they think they have dinos, and and they're doing all this work, and it doesn't seem to work. They seem to have more problems and are doing more effort to try to control those problems rather than going, yeah, I'm just going to ignore this box for a little while, or just look at it and say, oh, how interesting the phase that it's in right now.
But even on a professional level where these tanks aren't in my house, I see them once a week or every other week. It's like, and I don't mean for this to sound arrogant, but it's my experience that I have. But I'm, whenever I take over a client and I'm popping out, give me a little bit of time, give me some months, but I'm popping out gorgeous reef tanks, and the most thing I test at all is alkalinity,
Right,
and that's about it.
right.
And if it's a young reef tank I just set up, I've had the conversation with the client. Hey, we're going to be all over the page for. I try to set it, to under promise and over deliver. I always tell them within the first year, there's going to be ways that I'm going to have to direct it further. But after I'll usually say between 6 months to a year, I've gotten it to gel, and it's something that you really are proud of and enjoy looking at and your guests to see. But up until then, up to about 3 months to 6 months, be patient with me and be patient with the aquarium. It's going to be all over the place. And I'm just thinking from a hobbyist standpoint, if they're testing and trying to get numbers to cooperate in that period where the tank is just trying to even just be a tank, and you're trying to force it to be this parameter and that parameter, got to calm down a little bit.
Yeah. Watch your tank, look at your animals, get an understanding of what you need to actually be worried about. You know what? New tank, your sand, it's going to turn brown.
Yep.
You know what? You just leave it alone.
Yep.
And then I see people pull the sand out or some of it and wash it and then put it back. And it's like, well, it's kind of going to do the same thing again. It's got a season.
You know what you just said, what that reminds me of when I do consultations and people like, I bought this coral, I put it here and it didn't seem like it was happy. So then I put it here and then it didn't like that. So I put it here. And my first thing I say is, a core between the water chemistry, the amount of light, the flow, a coral is slowly changing its physiology to match where you put it. And then you moved it here and it's trying to change to that. You put it, you're going to kill it just by moving it everywhere.
Yeah. You can't keep dicking around with this stuff.
You have to let stuff run its course.
So if I was just thinking about, the reef beef method,
Don't test and be lazy.
We'll write a book one day.
Yeah.
Or a book. Yeah. What are books, Ben?
Ebook.
The Reef Beef method, the simple version would be stick the tank in your house, put all the stuff in it, inoculate it with live rock, and then leave the lights off for a month, and then look at it once a week and see how cool all the pods growing are. Don't worry about anything for a couple months, and then slowly bring the lights up, and we'll wean you away from a potential algae bloom. Or, oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, then get a fucking tank or a trash can and put it in your garage and put all your rock and shit in there and let them get ready for a couple months, and then you'll have a more instant tank. I'd still take a couple of weeks, but I think there's no getting around letting the tank season. It's got a season.
This is not, I mean, anyone listening to this has got to know this, but this is not a hobby, and I lived this working in stores because, a person with a lot of money will come in like, I want that, like your display over there. And it's like, it's like creating a bonsai tree.
Yes.
If you don't have patience, go to the RC hobby shop and get into a different hobby. This requires patience.
Yeah. And I'm seeing, now that I'm looking at a lot of conversations online about tanks, a lot of people have just like got frag tanks. That's all they've got is frags. And it's so alien to me, I want mine to look like a chunk of the ocean. I want my tank to look like Steve Weist's tank looked like, even though I don't have a tank of the proportions to be able to get that distance in it.
But that is funny what you just said, because that irks me too, because, you need to let things grow out for that, that flesh coverage, because they end up, that's why I start to not care so much about nitrate and phosphate. Yeah. Because all that coral flesh ends up using that. And if you try to limit, I'm getting off track a little bit here, but you're never going to control algae by trying to limit nutrients of nitrate and phosphate to algae. Algae's going to take that way further than a coral can, and you jack your tank up, dinos and cyanobacteria and sick corals.
Come to my talk at MACNA on Sunday.
Yes, exactly.
And we're kind of assholes. And here, I'll tell you why. Well, not really, but kind of. We say, leave it alone, let it settle, right? And the reason you're doing that is because at some point you're going to have to intervene.
Yeah.
I saw a discussion about, how do I put the corals, how far apart do I need to make them? It's like, it doesn't matter. Eventually, they're going to grow and fight.
Yep.
So, fucking relax about where you're putting them. Put your frag plugs where you like them. Let them grow for several months, and then you can start moving stuff around with more to work with to aquascape.
And no matter what you do, everything's going to end up merging into each other.
Yeah, almost no. And then, if you're successful in 2 or 3 years, you're going to have to rip a whole lot of it out anyway. It's not a static.
It's not a permanent installation.
It's faster than a bonsai once it gets going. And it's shockingly faster once everything gets going at the same time. And then you need strategies of, I only rescape a third of the tank at a time because then it's easier for me to make it look mature. Or you do what Dwayne does, right? And Dwayne just scorches the earth every couple of years and starts again, which is a totally fine and fun way to do it if you want to do it that way.
And Mark Levinson does it on accident.
That's right. With potassium in salt.
Yeah.
Maybe the useful things we can talk about in the future or in our book, Reef Beefin'.
Our hologram book.
Reef Beefin'. Is that kind of strategy of the philosophy of how you're going to ride this dragon instead of how you're going to control this dragon.
Yeah.
And so back to test kits, I don't like any of the only test kit I really like is the API alkalinity test kit, because you put drops in and that's your DKH number. I love that.
For an old argument with you, mine is the Tropic Marin
version of that
alkalinity test kit that does the same thing.
Yeah.
It costs 3 times as much and does the same thing.
And then I love the Trident because I only have to do something to it every 2 months. Otherwise, it's like this, and I'm testing, and if something goes wrong, I'm going to know about it.
I mean,
But
it's like, but then I go back to ICP, and that's like, it feels like it's the soup of the day. And everyone I bump into is just spending. No, you know what? No wonder there's ICP companies all over the place, because so many people are just chunking money into that.
so many people are sending their water to 3 different companies so they can compare.
Yeah. And what is
Which
that? That's like 3 different samples. Isn't that like over $100 right
Oh
there?
yeah, yeah. And I was doing that for a while too, but some folks over on the bigoted site, which I'm posting on a little bit now. They're approving some of my posts.
Yeah.
They did I forget their names. I'm sorry. They did some really good work on comparing ICP companies.
Mhm.
I think we talked about it because they referenced Chris and my article about it.
Oh, okay.
But it's like, you know what? You don't have to send your water to 3 different ICP companies to compare anymore. Enough people have done it, and you can find the results enough to come to the only conclusion, which is,
Yeah.
yeah. If I think something's goofy, maybe I'll send an ICP test. If it comes back with something goofy, you know what the first thing I have to do is? Send out another ICP test, because I don't trust it enough to believe that, the one test is enough.
Yeah.
Or you just bite the bullet right away and send 2 samples to the same testing company so you can compare. And then your brain burns, because I've done that. I did that recently. I think I sent 3, and they were all not the same.
Case in point.
One of them said I had too much gold in my tank.
I'm coming over to your tank because I'm going to find out some way to extract that gold from your aquarium.
One test said I had a zinc problem. One test said I didn't have enough zinc. It was the water collected at the same time from the same place, sent out to the same testing company. So I fucking hate testing.
Yeah.
My favorite testing was at the Steinhardt when a guy named Vaughn worked there. And Vaughn did all the testing, and he was methodical, and he did it all the same way every single time, and I was thrilled with that. Once Vaughn quit and moved on to whatever he's doing now, I think he's eating babies now. No, Vaughn was awesome. He was in a rock band. And then it was like, then they had multiple people doing the testing, and it was like, that's too...
You didn't trust it anymore.
I didn't trust it.
Yeah.
And then they had a big machine that was supposed to do it, but I don't know how that ended up. The moral is, and then we got to shut up, or I'm going to shut up. I'll let you have the last word. Is get a test kit, see what the numbers are when things look good, and then only use that test kit.
Yeah, sort of stick with the test kit and stick with the way that you do it.
If you're going to compare a Hannah to a Salifert, they might be in the same ballpark, and they might not be. The question is, does it matter? How does your tank look?
There's inherent margins of error between those kits.
Yeah.
So my beef was hobbyists, beginner hobbyists jumping in too deep, and then but basically I don't want to really expound on that. So because we sort of did it by coming off the page on test kits. But it's basically is what it is. You just get in the hobby, and then you get embroiled in, whether you have to do eDNA or you should do ICP testing or what test kit. I mean, quarantining, or, take any facet. I just love it when I hear some people. I've heard people at stores who work at a store. They try to tell people like, oh, the hobby's not that bad. And I understand it from a sales standpoint, because you would come into the store like, oh, I want to get involved in saltwater aquarium. I'm like, oh, Jesus, get ready. Put on your seatbelt. Oh, I hope you have deep pockets. Oh, it's complicated. I'm not going to sell anything. But, am I saying that's the truth of the matter? Not necessarily, but I don't think it's a hobby that you can take very lightly. It's complicated.
I think there's I've been a fan of saying something like, you have to understand what you think is going on in the tank, right? You
But
could
you
be
can't do that with zero experience.
right, right. You have to, if you don't have some understanding, even if it's completely different than my understanding of what's going on in the tank, unless you are thinking about what's going on, there's really not, you're just throwing bean bags at random holes and hoping they go in. You know, you don't even know where the holes are. You're just, you know, somebody said I should put bleach in my tank. Somebody said,
you know what's crazy? I will make a claim that is most people who are in the saltwater aquarium hobby. Now, that's not most, I'm not saying most people on a forum, most people that listen to Reef Beef. I'm just saying if you could take people that have a saltwater aquarium in their home, and a huge majority would not even listen to something like Reef Beef. They're not that deep in the hobby.
yeah.
But I'm saying a huge majority of them never get past throwing bean bags at random holes in the dark. That's most hobbyists.
Yeah. And now that we have digital screens that tell you what a level is, your brain goes, well, that's got to be correct.
And if it's 20 parts per million off, you're having a heart attack.
Look, these graphs are different colors. They have to be true.
Yes.
And yes, there is a lot, and the rabbit holes are deep. You don't need to start that deep. You know, it can be light, but you know, I think you need if I were suggesting what to do, I would get a mentor or a coach that I could talk to once a week for half an hour and go, what the fuck is this?
You're not going to get out of chaos until you devote yourself to learning more what's going on and get on that other side of the fence where you learn that you don't have to worry about everything so much.
Yeah. And I guess people go to their fish store, or online, but somebody goes, what should I do about this? And there's 50 different answers that are all competing.
And I don't want to be harsh to stores, but that's my background. And I have this sort of cynical view where you go in a fish store, and I'm sorry, fish stores, I know there's better ones out there, but you go in a fish store and no matter what problem you have, it's solved by a bottle of something they sell you. And that's why I tell people to be careful getting advice from people who have a vested interest in making money off of you, because their advice is going to be geared towards selling you something, where in my capacity, if you paid me for consultation, you're going to be like, oh, well, that's not what all the stores told me. It's like, because that's not going to make them money.
You know, it's funny because kiteboarding is kind of the same. You know, there's stuff, and after you've been doing it 6 or 8 years, you kind of go, oh, all that stuff is bullshit.
Yeah.
So why do the companies now have, why are they working on light wind kites when for the last 5 years there haven't been light wind kites? It's like, oh, because they sold the precision kites already for 5 years, and now they've got to, it's time for the new market. And the new market is, oh, well, we've been doing precision, let's do light wind now. So,
I mean, there's certain like marketing forces that drive an industry.
Yeah.
And if an industry like sort of stagnates for people trying to make money, they come up with some new shit. And then it's sort of like Richard and I sort of sometimes are the old guy shouting in the river because it starts shifting a direction that seems silly to us.
Can you imagine if skateboarding was like kiting? When you get a skateboard and you want to learn stuff, what do? You go on, you do it 1,000 times, right?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you went onto a forum and was like, how do I do my kickflip?
Yeah.
And everyone was like, well, you've got to be 3 inches, and then you gotta, oh, don't do it on that asphalt. That asphalt's too sticky.
You're right. You're right. If you're trying to learn how to do a kickflip off of a forum, full stop.
You can get some information, but I think maybe it all just comes down to the thing that we've been saying for a million years, which is, it just takes time to know what's going on in this hobby.
Yeah.
We're back to what you said before. Because I remember one show where we mentioned that I had acro eating flatworms. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And one of the comments was like, how is he so calm? And it's like, well, what the fuck am I going to do?
Been there, done that, seen that, fought it. Whatever. It doesn't mean inaction. It just means, what is he going to do? Burn his house down?
Yeah, I'm gonna reset up the whole tank. Speaking of that, a reef beefer friend, I won't say his name, but it rhymes with Baron, put all his fish in his tank and then got a little bit of ick, and then panicked and pulled them all out and put them in QT, and it was a nightmare to catch everything, and QT is hard, and he's very upset right now because it's a pain in the ass. And I was like, yeah, that's why I said let it ride. You know, let it ride for a week and see where it goes. Or I said, put a big micron filter on the tank.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And he's like, I'm the kind of guy who'll be always worried that ick is going to come back. And it's like, and I wanted to go, I'm sure he's not listening, but I wanted to say, and I would have had the conversation go on longer. It was like, it's going to come back anyway.
Everything will. Aptasia, everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
The dishes are never done.
Nobody is precise enough and dedicated enough to get no pests to come in their tank.
It's just unrealistic.
Because when you do that, it's 6 months till everything stabilizes instead of a month or two, you know?
I mean, I definitely think you should put forth effort to mitigating that. But I think what is more important skill set is knowing how to deal with the inevitable fact that you will see these pests. What do you do about them?
Yeah.
Because if your main energy output is, how do I keep from having it? It's like, okay, do your best for that, but also know what to do when you do see aptasia.
I've gone through 3 80-day fallow periods and I still have ick.
And I'm going to quit the hobby now.
You know? Or I saw one acro-eating flatworm, so I'm tearing the tank down.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Stop. Relax. Unless you enjoy tearing tanks down and putting them back together, which I don't. Maybe we could be wrong about that.
I do.
Maybe people really love, really you would do it if you weren't getting paid every day?
No. I mean, I love to set up tanks as a business, but not for.
Yeah. Okay. We were talking about how
I always power through pests and algae and disease, and always.
It's my thought is you want to see the animals in their glory, not that you want a clean sand bed.
Yeah.
You know, but I guess some people want us to clean sand bed. Back to your point, I think the beginners are getting too focused on stuff that in the bigger, wider picture doesn't matter. They get swept up in trying to ID which fucking dinoflagellate they have.
Yeah.
And buying microscopes to sleuth that out.
So Richard,
Benjamin,
that's our show there.
Oh, it was a good show.
Yeah. I want to thank saltwateraquarium.com as always. And I want to thank MACNA. And I want to thank you, beefers, for all the love and support. It's the only reason we're sitting here talking, really.
You beefers are the beefiest. Let us know what we're wrong about in the comments.
Yeah.
Let us know what we're right about in the comments. And let us know what we should put in our book.
Thank you so much, beefers.
Super bloopers. Bitch.
We got it, bitch.
No, I wonder if it just starts with me going bitch, or if it says recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress.
Let's see. It's going too deep. You go back to being a small fish in a big pond. Are you still there? Recording. Richard disappeared. Why did he disappear? I'm sure he'll be back. He dropped off, Jim. He shall be back, though. Participants, just me. Richard disappeared. He shall not be back. He will come back. Richard. Excuse me. Sorry. That was very rude of me. It was that crazy static again.
Can you hear me again?
Yeah. Did your thing die again?
The same goddamn thing happened. It's so fucking annoying. I think it's time for a new monitor here.